to the Community Choice map. It's TPW Odyssey SE. It's the Selected Edition, it's the Super Edition, it's the Silly Edition. I don't know which of those three S's, or if any, is the right one. But spawning in the top left, we've got our green Terran. He is Zerzhinsky. And spawning to the bottom right, playing the teal Protoss piece, is our second competitor here from Team Slayers. It is Arthur. Arthur. He's got a name that purrs nicely. Arthur. But how will he fare on this map? Now, this is actually a really, really tricky map to play Terran vs. Protoss on, and I've actually only seen one single game on this map previously, but it was a Terran vs. Protoss, and it was right in the thick of the, right when basically every single Terran was doing a 1-1-1. They were doing a Marine, Siege Tank, Banshee play every single game, and on this map, it is super effective. Squirtle's water gun here all over Charmander's face. That's how this one goes down, and I'll tell you why. It's because right here, right there, that Siege Tank, sitting right there, he can reach that Nexus. Yeah, it's horrible, it's terrible, and it really makes me sad when it happens. Now, of course, it does mean that that Siege Tank can be picked off a little bit easier, but since Siege Tanks have the longest range, you can easily defend that Siege Tank with just all your other Siege Tanks behind it, and of course, a couple of Banshees, and some Marines also buffering around there, and it makes it really tough to even just snipe that one Siege Tank. So, we'll see here exactly how this game does play out. That isn't the... I mean, 1-1's still very strong, but Protosses have gotten so much better at holding them that they're not nearly as popular as they once were, and we'll have to see here exactly what Zerzhinsky is going to choose to do. Overlay. Again, my new monitor positioning gets me every time. But we do have a refinery now on the way for Zerzhinsky, so he's definitely going to go for some kind of one base play. This one supply depot here getting really close to actually getting taken down by that probe, but now an SCV there going to get to work. And with a Marine popping out, he doesn't even have to worry about the SCV showing its back to the ramp, because the Marine will pop out and take out the probe before that would even become a problem. Now we do have a cybernetics core and a second gas going down for Arthur, and that is pretty traditional here for when you see your opponent basically just walling you off. That means they're hiding what they're doing, and we see Arthur just taking the assumption that, yeah, you probably took gas, and yeah, you're probably going to do some one-base play. We see a probe there hidden for maybe some little later on scouting, but most importantly, what we're going to see here from Arthur is likely some kind of 2-gate robo-expand, which is super safe against one-base play early on, and still allows you to actually transition into a unit composition that can hold off 1-1-1 pressure. Now, we see the factory here hasn't even quite been started yet, but the second refinery is already going down, and actually there is the factory, is just barely out of range. Taking a glance at that production tab does let us know, though, that it was started. And so we're going to see some cloaked Banshees, almost 100% guaranteed. Looks like this barracks here going to build one more Marine, maybe two, and then build a tech lab. And then it's going to lift up, and they're going to start... No, okay. Yeah, I think it... Yeah, I think it is going to be used to build a tech lab. There's no other reason for him to pull it back this far. Of course, that will lower his overall Marine count, but it will slightly increase the speed with which he can get his Banshee out. I don't know. Why would he pull back the barracks? Because it looks like the factory and the starport are going to team up here for some of that tech lab starport action. So the barracks is just having a good time. It's just like, hey, look guys, I can fly. Yeah, that's right. Blizzard let me fly this game, so yeah. I guess, like, that's the only thing that makes any sense. What are you doing, Barracks? This is seriously breaking my brain, because I need to know why everything happens. And it's not like he just left the barracks there and did nothing with it, you know? He actually, like, physically lifted it up and moved. And it looks like he actually wanted to get a bunker down. He feels a little bit unsure about what his opponent's doing, because what he did manage to spot is a double assimilator. So that means that there could actually be some kind of like blink all in and immortal all in coming his way. So now finally everything makes sense. He moved the barracks back. That way he could get a bunker closer towards the front, just open up this area a bit, allow him to be quite a bit safer against any kind of one base all in from the Protoss. Of course, we see though that Arthur did go right into a Nexus, and he actually did it pretty greedily here. Looks like he went for a 3-gate expand and is now getting a robotics facility. We do see the Cloak and the Banshee play now coming from Zerzhinsky, but he's also going for a command center. Now, we have seen some variations of the 1-1-1, jokingly called the 2-2-2, where players get an extra command center, they expand, and then they go for a little bit of a later Marine siege tank timing, and essentially it's a little bit tricky because you have to make sure your opponent doesn't get too many Colossus to really just rip through your Marines and then take down those siege tanks. And the more time you give the Protoss usually isn't necessarily a good thing, but with some nice splitting, some nice drop ship play as well, you can make things like that work. So Zerzhinsky here got those Banshees now starting to move out across the map. His opponent here just getting that first observer out. No, it's the second observer. And he's actually rallying it right into his main mineral line here. So it looks like he's going to be pretty safe. Likely because he did a little bit of scouting here and did end up seeing the bunkers going up. So looks like he got a pretty good look at exactly what his opponent was up to. And just seems like he wants to have some observers at home to defend. Yeah. And there's one observer there just hanging out, wants to see if there's any drops or Banshees coming in. And here comes Banshee number 1. Now one observer is... Where are the other observers? It's a probe, but the Banshee is doing a lot of damage nonetheless, and of course it does have Cloak. Now one of the observers is finally coming back. The other one here, it's right there in the middle of his opponent's base, so you can get a good look at what his opponent's doing. The Stalkers are trying to chase down that Cloaked Banshee. One more hit would do it, but no, the Banshee just barely makes it out of there. And of course, that was a nice path for Zerzhinsky's Banshee to take, because now his second Banshee is in position to go into the natural once again. Now we see 8 probes have been killed off total, but the Stalkers are coming back in position here for Arthur. Arthur also getting that robotics band. He's going to go right into some Colossus production here, so it doesn't look like he's worried about some kind of Marine siege tank play, but we do see it's actually Thors getting produced here for Zerzhinsky. That is a little bit off the beaten path, you could say. Not too common. We did see him go a really successful mech play against his Zerg opponent Sanis, but mech versus Protoss. It's something that only Arthosis has been saying would be freaking amazing, and maybe it is, you know? There's a million different ways to play every single combination of units, and we'll have to see if Zerzhinsky's found a way to play mech against Protoss. Because there it is. There's a second factory. There's a second starport. Oh, I know what this is. All right, so this is the Banshee Thor 2-base all in play. It's actually super, super strong. You really actually don't really want Colossus against this. What you want is Immortals and High Templar. The High Templars are really effective because they can lay down storms, which take out the SCVs, which usually go with this attack. And of course, the SCVs repair the Banshees, repair the Thors, and it just makes it really tough for anything to kill them off. Thors, of course, get healed super fast, and of course, Protoss, they don't have very good anti-air early game, so it's just difficult to kill Banshees in the first place. We even see a Raven coming in here, so that point defense drone does come into play, and it does, of course, keep those Banshees alive even longer. And meanwhile, we do see a lot of gateways here going down for SlayerSArthur. He's getting that extended thermal lance. Now, of course, Colossus also can be used to take down those SCVs, and this could still be an effective hold. Usually, though, the way I've seen it held is with the High Templar, with the Storms, and then the Immortals. Because if you go for the Colossus unfortunately aren't very good against Thors at all. And of course, if you're building Colossus, well, you don't have any robotics facility time to build Immortals, which are good against Thors. Now, the Banshees are a little bit out of position here, but the Stalkers do not have Blink, so that means that the Banshees here will escape. And looks like Arthur here is trying to get out across the map and get a little bit more aggressive. Now, the Raven here does have enough energy for a point defense drone, so no matter how fast Arthur does get across the map, he might not be fast enough. Now, we do have some Banshees here actually running out of energy, so even though the Observer isn't quite there, one Banshee will get sniped. Nice map presence there by Arthur, and he does have a lot of gateways again, as I mentioned. He's got a total of 7 of them there, so he's going to be going for a pressure. He's got proxy pylons in position, getting those Colossus towards the front, and he's actually going to engage here before Zerzhinsky is even ready. I don't know if this is going to work against him, though. We do see the SCVs coming forward here, trying to keep that wall in alive. Stalkers are reasonable against Thor, so we'll have to see how this works out. Colossi are mostly just hitting supply depots right now, though they're not really doing too much damage. Now, the Observer is there in position. The Stalkers are trying to focus fire down these Banshees as best as they can, but he is running out of Stalkers, and then he's going to lose all of his Colossus. Oh, no. Of course, the point defense drone there used up all of its energy against those Stalkers, and now the Banshees are going to chase after the Colossus. More Stalkers, though, are coming forward. He has to be careful, and it looks like he will pull back just in the nick of time. Let's take a look at the unit counting station. 51 probes to 55 SCVs. So right now, Zerzhinsky is actually the one who is ahead in that supply count, but the wall has gone down now. A lot of SCVs are, of course, set to repair, so they aren't mining. So if we look at the actual income there, we do see that Arthur is ahead there in that income just a tiny bit. So that was a tight engagement there. Arthur's unit composition actually did fairly well against that Thor Banshee play. Of course, it really came down to that wall off, which really helped Zerzhinsky out to hold off that pressure. Now, we do have the Stalkers and Observers actually still running around. They're going to try to catch some Banshees out of position if they can. And meanwhile, we see Zerzhinsky trying to just rebuild that Thor Banshee army here if he can. He's also getting that 250mm strike cannons. That's not an upgrade that you get to see every day. But back at home, there we see it, the Templar Archives going down for Arthur. Got the Immortals now starting to get Chrono boosted out, and he's also getting Blink. Blink mostly just so that the Stalkers can get into a good position against the Banshees, against the Raven, maybe even just blink away from point defense drones. And again, the Immortal's going to be super effective versus those Thors, and Storm's going to be really effective against just about everything, but even Feedback can be super effective against a lot of these units. 200 energy feedback, boom, that brings your Thor down to half HP, and that's actually why you're seeing the 250mm strike cannons. He's likely going to use those cannons on some destructible rocks that are along the way. I don't even know where there are destructible rocks on this map. Maybe nowhere. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any destructible rocks on this map. So that's what I've seen. Like, I've seen this build on Daybreak a few times while I was doing the KSL, and that's what 250mm strike cannon was used for. Just use it as quickly as possible. Just use up that Thor energy if you can. And nice move here by Arthur. He actually blinks right up into the main base with those Stalkers. He's trying to find a way to escape, and he should be able to find one. Oh, nice scan there. He actually takes out the Observer, so now the Stalkers can't really do too much. Stalkers do take out one of the tech labs there. It is going to burn down, and now the Stalker's going to go after a couple of SCVs. So that means no more Banshees out of that starport, and he does, of course, also pull his opponent's army back, which is really important since he hasn't really gotten Storm just yet. Does he have High Templar in his army? Yes, he does, so it looks like he's going to use it mostly for feedback. No Storms this time around, but again, look at this SCV train. 20 SCVs here, 22 in fact SCVs are pushing out across the map, and that's what's so tricky to deal with because they repair the Thors so fast. The Thors are huge units with a lot of surface area, and without Storms, it can be tricky to deal with those. We do have 3 Colossus, though, so they should be able to help quite a bit. Now, here are the Thors. They got those 250mm strike cannons. Keep that in mind. Here they come, though. Nice feedbacks going down on all of those Thors. We do see the Colossus here cleaning up a lot of those SCVs. The Zealth getting up close and personal. The supply of Arthur, though, is plummeting. Zerzhinsky here still has a lot of Thors and Banshees alive, and we see that Arthur down to 60 supply to the 140 of Zerzhinsky, and still a bunch of SCVs alive. They even just repair themselves. So many Banshees here doing so much damage. 8 of them there in play. The third base of Arthur is under assault. Stalkers trying to blink in there, taking out some of the Banshees, but the Thors here are still protecting them. Even some Marines under there defending it. Arthur gives